recording and then live on Facebook. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Still makes me giggle while I try and figure out all the little ins and outs, because I've literally only been doing this for like a month and a half. I'm just really busy all the time.
I've been doing it for years and I still stuff it up sometimes, so don't worry.
Thank you for your understanding and grace in this matter. Yeah, it's so funny. It's a beautiful process. I feel like I learn something new every single time I do this. Great. That's the way life should be. It's just getting to be open. Someday I'll get my lighting figured out instead of having this like crazy bright light over here.
I was talking to a lady earlier on, and she had grabbed one of those ring lights, and she thought it was just amazing. And she showed it before, and then she put it on. It was a really, really good contrast.
I love the rings that it actually puts around your eyes. It looks really cool. Inspirational. Vanessa Talbot and her profound. Okay. Going live. I'll be like, oh my gosh, another Aussie. What? People are, after a while, I feel like people are just going to be like, do you still interview Americans, or are you just solely about Australian?
It's a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, Australians are just so much fun. Not that Americans are fun. I love the Americans that I get to engage with as well. They're fabulous human beings. They're wonderful people all over the world. So trying to mute my Facebook page. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Elysia Buss from Horsepower Empowerment Through Connection. Tonight we have a spontaneous live with Vanessa Talbot, who is from Orange, New South Wales, which is in Australia. Shocking. I know. Vanessa is an incredible, basically like trainer of trainers for like, she trains coaches and she helps them to radiate and get known and get to pull in more clients and just, yeah, there's so much more that we're getting to learn about Vanessa and what she offers people and helping them with their different strategies and so many different pieces. And then later we'll get to talk about her incredible horse beauty that helped her in her life. And I haven't even heard the story yet. I've just heard that it's beautiful and I'm really excited to hear about it with all of you for the first time. So Vanessa, thank you so much for being on the show this evening.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for inviting me on.
You're very welcome. It's my pleasure. So let's just hop right to it. Like, tell us a little bit more about what it is that you do with coaches.
I work with coaches, but they are coaches who you've got a bigger mission for the world. Do you know what I mean? Like they're coaches who really want to get their work out, transform more lives, impact more people. So I call it radiance and influence because I love this idea that we become these shining lights by the work that we're putting out there, and that draws the people to us. So for me, my work's all about radiance and influence for coaches and change makers. So even people who don't particularly identify as a coach, they may identify with the idea of being a change maker. So anyone in that field, and obviously the idea, what I do is help them with the strategy, help them with that visibility, help them with the messaging and reaching the people and the ways to do that so that they can get more of their work and their message out there, reach more people, and obviously bring in more clients in abundance as well for all in that process. It's it's really just that simple in terms of what I'm saying. But never that simple.
What is that?
Never that simple in the process. But I do love to work with the people who do have a higher mission of their whys, of why they want to get out there.
And what's your why?
My why is actually why I'm doing this is why I became a coach. Is my why was freedom. freedom to be at home with my horses and freedom to be at home with the animals that I care for, because I am an Australian wildlife carer as well. So I get all the poor little orphaned babies and then injured animals that need care. So Aussie
Like
wildlife.
kangaroos?
Yeah, I have kangaroos.
In wallabies?
Yeah, wallabies. I've only got kangaroos at the moment, so I have 5 kangaroos at the moment. So I have lots of animals that are Australian wildlife come in, and the aim is always to get them better or to raise them and be able to release them successfully back into the wild. I'm not here to keep these animals. It is to take them back or release them back where they belong, and that's out in the Australian wild.
That's beautiful. I feel like it would be really hard for me to let go of the kangaroos, especially the wallabies, because they're so little and adorable.
Well, our kangaroos are actually free as such. Like, they're not actually put in any sort of enclosures or anything.
Oh, at your place, they're free.
They're free, but so
Oh,
they
that's
have.
so cool.
Yeah, they can go out and they can go visit the wild mob that we have here. They go across to the neighbours' properties, because I do live on a country property, so. They have free range all here, and this is what we find. The boys tend to eventually go out and not really come back. They go off and do their thing. But the females tend to have a home range, a home territory. So they go out and make babies with the boys, the big boys, wild boys, but they tend to come home. So our roos, are not enclosed or in any sort of enclosure at all, and they choose to primarily live here on my property. And they have wild visitors come all the time. There's many a time I've woken up and gone out onto my front porch and found a massive big boomer. And for anyone who doesn't know what a boomer is a big male kangaroo. I was sitting on my front veranda.
I got to learn something new tonight. Awesome.
Yeah, boomer. So I've often come and found a big boomer right on my front veranda. And one morning, because my female, main female kangaroo, the one I've had the longest, she's very good at pushing open the fly screens during summer days to get into the house. And one morning I woke up to find that she had opened up and pushed open the fly screen, walked into the house, and there she was in the lounge room with me, sleep on the couch. She hops up on the couch and sleeps on it. And with her, standing in the middle of my lounge room, was a massive wild boy kangaroo. It's like, oh my God.
What did you do?
Oh, nothing. I just left them to it. They'll walk out when they're ready, which they did. And the wild ones are quite.
How big is this kangaroo? Like this boomer, this male kangaroo?
Oh, I'm not very good at sizes or anything, but I mean, they're big things. Like anyone wants to Google a good size full-grown male kangaroo, and you'll see that they're full of muscle. They look like Rambo or something, like they're big. So yeah, big muscly boy. They have massive big hands and claws, which is why Australians are quite wary of getting near such creatures when they are at that strength, build and strength.
Yeah.
I mean, they're taller than me, and I'm 5'7", so they got more height than me.
Wow. You're just like, that's cool, guys. Like, I'm just gonna get some coffee and like just make yourself at home.
Yeah, I mean, my toes are only little, so the females don't actually grow that big, but the males can get very big and it's got a lot of muscle on them. So they can be a little bit intimidating, but they can have a lot of strength. And though I don't find them intimidating or anything at all, for some people they can be. You need to be a bit wary not to get in their way.
What are their personalities like for the male kangaroos and the female kangaroos that you're helping?
That people think, because I have them, you know, a lot of overseas people think, oh, I'd love to have a kangaroo. What a gorgeous pet. They don't make great pets at all. And that's mine are pets as such, but that's because a lot of them have been hand raised with me, but they are free. Like, they're in no enclosures at all. They tend to be quite flighty because they're very much a flight animal. So any noise, I mean, this morning the wood truck showed up, my kangaroos just went whoosh, off they went. The minute there's anything unusual or they feel is a threat, they're out of there.
Interesting. So how do they interact with the horses?
Oh, they're fine with the horses. Except if the horses start galloping around the paddock, then the kangaroos are like, oh, I got to get out of here. But all the animals are so used to each other. You know, even the chickens wander around with the kangaroos. Nobody has all the species together are quite well, but kangaroos are a flight animal, and they have a high nervous tendency. So they're not a great pet. They're not cool, calm, and placid.
Interesting. But they're more, yes, but they'll run. Like you're not going to have a problem with them as long as you give them the space to get away.
Yeah, the only time you'll have problem with a kangaroo, the only time they would turn aggressive is for the boys when you're between him and the female of his desire.
It's like with moose when it's rutting season. You're just like, no, they will like straight up kill you. You need to like run very far and very fast away.
Yeah, you've just got to know not to get between. They can get very aggressive, and they fight each other, the boys, a lot for a doe's attention. A doe is a female kangaroo. So as long as you know that that's going on, the only other time that you'll find a kangaroo aggressive is if you are threatening it and it feels that it can't get away.
Yeah.
So often, people have their dogs chase down kangaroos and then find their dogs get hurt by the kangaroos. And that's because the kangaroo's been cornered and can't get away. So it's got no choice but to defend itself.
Yeah.
And if that's the situation, then you might want to, get out of there.
You might want to leave.
Yeah.
That's so fascinating. We got to learn new information tonight about kangaroos.
Yeah. I mean, I've never been attacked by a kangaroo, but I have had one of the males from up the back up there come down, and because I was in the way between him and my doe Charlie, he started to dive at me and I had to run inside.
Cool. That sounds scary.
That's about the only time. But I've got people around here who say to me that they would never let their children out of the house when the male kangaroos come down. But my daughter has been wandering around with big male kangaroos, wild male kangaroos, since she was a toddler. So, and nothing's ever happened to her because she's learnt how to read the animal.
Right, which is so important when you're interacting with any animal, really.
Yeah, yeah. So if you know how to read your animal, then you'll know whether you should be there or not, basically.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, the same thing can go for humans when you think about it. If somebody's in a bad space and you don't want to engage with them on that level, then you just know how to handle them properly and stay away.
But often people aren't aware of that. So, yeah, and anyway, I won't go on too much, but it's why some people get hurt.
Thank you for indulging me talking about the boomers. I just love that name too. It's just so great. Anyways, so your daughter's 14 and she has her own horse, correct? And what kind of horse does she have?
She's got one of I think in America you call them the Gypsy Vanners. In America. So we call them Gypsy Cobs. Yeah. We call them Gypsy Cobs. I think in America you call them Gypsy Vanners.
Yeah.
And back in Ireland they call them tinker horse. I mean in Europe they're calling them tinker horses. I think generally they're known over there as Gypsy Cobs. In Australia, Gypsy Cobs, but they're also called tinkers, and definitely I'm pretty sure they're Gypsy Vanners in the US. In fact, Teddy, that's our gypsy, his grandma is at a stud in Missouri. So I found out a few days ago.
Random. That's funny. Yeah, I love the Gypsy Vanners. I have a friend in Oregon who breeds Gypsy Vanners. Her horses are beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
My gosh.
A very, very just beautiful, calm, loving horse. But also they can have quite a dominating personality, but it's never nasty. Do you know what I mean?
Really? That's fascinating.
Yeah, they can be quite a dominated personality, which a lot of people don't realize. But when I speak to the gypsy community out here, because we have a very dominating horse, ours is very dominating, but he's gentle. But he's one of those who's always asking, I'll do it, but what's in it for me?
How many cookies do I get? 3?
Yeah, or I'll just get right in your face today. He's one of those, and apparently that's quite common for that breed with them. So interesting, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's funny. So, and she is getting to start training horses, even though she's 14. Is that right?
Yeah, she's just been asked to come along and help work with this Brumby. So if anyone is outside of Australia and doesn't know, the Brumbies are our Australian wild horses, basically. And she's just been asked to come help train a Brumby. I just got the message earlier on. So she's going to be super duper excited about that, because she's been wanting to, well, she's done such a great job with this Gypsy. When he came to us, he was 7.5 and he was still a stallion, and everyone said, he's way too much. He's way too much.
Yeah.
And she's been riding him. They've got an amazing relationship, and so I think she can handle, I think, a lot more than, I'm not saying all kids can't, but for a lot of the other children at her age riding, she can actually handle a lot more difficult horses than them. I think it's just because she got given me and gave her this rather notoriously difficult stallion to begin with, so she had to learn fast. She learned fast how to read and interact and connect with her horse very quickly.
She sounds like a very intuitive young lady.
Yeah, she's gotten very brave, put it that way.
Sure. It's a good thing to be in life. So now you came from a small town in Western Australia, Mingenew, right?
Yep, Mingenew. Yep, you said it
right. And now you were telling me that your father was a jackaroo, which is like the Australian version of a cowboy.
Pretty much.
And that he so that you had a lot of horses, but your mother didn't want you riding the horses.
Yeah, I don't ride. I've never ridden. I have horses, but I've never ridden them. I like my connection with my horses, and I love being with them, and I love working with them on the ground, but I don't ride. But yeah, my dad was a jackaroo pretty much on his father's stations up north in northwestern Australia. And then when all that land got sold, when his dad died, he brought the horses down to our farm, and he had married a city girl, my mum. And my mum was scared of the horses. She could handle the sheep, but she didn't really want anything to do with the horses.
She's like, they're so fluffy and short.
And you know, one of these horses that we had that he had brought down with him when the station up north got sold, so he brought the horses down to our farm. One of them was pretty naughty. He used to go into the paddocks with the sheep and pick them up by their wool and fling them around. So we had a few flung around, unfortunately, broken sheep. That sounds funny, but it wasn't. And then he had another habit of jumping this very, very high fence we had in the chook yard. This was not a small chook yard. This was on a farm. So it was a very big enclosure for the chickens. And he had a habit of jumping this enclosure, which no horse should be able to jump the height that this was, but he could. And going in there and stomping on the chickens. So my mum was obviously quite scared of this horse, and then the other horses we had was an old Southwest Brumby, and she was a mean old lady, so she kept us away from them. And so most of my childhood I was kept away from the horses for that reason. Then because my mum didn't like them, and this particular horse was very naughty, Dad ended up selling them all because he didn't use them as much as he did up north. We had a smaller farm. We didn't need the horses to do the work like they did up north on the stations, so they got sold. That particular naughty horse who used to jump the very, very high chook fence, he ended up going off to be a well-known show jumper. So his talent was revealed.
Exactly.
In our chook yard. But yeah, so my childhood was kept away from the horses actually, but I had this, and it's probably inherited from my dad, and it wasn't till I moved over here. So I wasn't till around my, when did I move here? 30. Around till I was around 35 when I moved here. There was a horse on the property next to the house that I had bought. And I used to go down the fence and talk to it all the time. And it was then I said, I'm going to get my own. So it took that amount of time to actually bring them into my life.
Interesting. And so when did you find beauty?
So beauty was one of those when I said I'm going to get some horses and bring them into my life. But because I wasn't a rider, I decided I'm going to get the miniatures. So I saw an ad and it said, 4 miniatures for sale. I went out and looked and I said, I'll buy them all. So I grabbed them all. So I
Wow.
so they all came home with me. I said, if I buy the whole lot, I'll keep them together. So she said, yes, please. And so I bought the whole lot and bought it.
Of course.
And Beauty was this black filly. I think she was about 2 at the time that she came to live with me. Then they were all very young horses. They were all only 1 and 2.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
They must have been adorable as minis.
Oh, they were naughty and
always getting into trouble.
And when you get naughty little young horses and you have no horse sense whatsoever, that was me. I used to go down. I used to be down there every day with Beauty, and she is boss mare, so you know what they're like.
Oh, I do.
Well, let's say boss filly at the time, but she was still the boss of the little pack of 4. And every day I'd go down there and just bond with her, and every day I'd come back covered in little nips and bruises, And I used to go into town and see some friends, and every day they'd say, "You got another new bite on you. You got another new thing. What is doing this?" So for the first 6 months, I was covered in little nips. And I'm not saying she was mean or aggressive. She wasn't. She was none of that. But she was just it was her just battling with me as I'm boss cocky here. So
that's so funny. And so, what was something just truly special that Beauty helped you with?
Well, really, really interesting thing about Beauty, and she was always the one that I bonded the most with. And I love all my horses. So we had the 4 minis, and Teddy has just come. Teddy, the Gypsy Vanner, has come in now at a later date, but for many, many years. So those horses now are all around 20.
Oh, wow.
They've been with me a long time.
I'm so sorry. Coco. And this folks is life. Coco Bean.
Coco Bean.
Coco Bean, yeah, it's Coco. She's probably barking at the bunnies. I'm so sorry. Hold, please. Coco. Oh my goodness gracious. Go have an adventure. Oh my goodness. Almighty protector, the Coco Bean. She is we've started to call her sausage sometimes because she gets to eat a lot of treats sometimes. I think that since Mom's ankle has been broken, that sometimes Dad and I miss our communication, and sometimes she's been getting 2 dinners.
Oh.
And she's a little mini Aussie. And she's brown and beige and white, and she's super cute with amber eyes. But man, she just, when she's ready to bark at something, she's
well, the good thing that usually comes on my lives is my galah usually squawks in the background, but she's not. My galah, she's not in at the moment. She's outside. A galah is an Australian bird. It's like a pink and grey parrot, or pink and grey cockatoo.
Okay.
So it's a cockatoo, and it's pink and grey, and that's what we call a galah. And I've got one of them. She's one of the wildlife that came into care and could never be released because she came in with a broken wing when she was a baby. And though we set the ring, it just didn't heal properly, and she was never able to use it to fly. So she can't fly. So she had to stay here and live here. So she's about 15 now, and she just walks in the background. So I usually have to try and throw her out because she'd be the first one to be squawking in the background here.
You just put her on your shoulder, and you could be like a pirate.
that does happen.
You just should have an eye patch handy all the time. On your desk for when she comes to visit, and you're just and so on with your session.
Yeah, no, she squawked in many a podcast in the background, I can tell you that much. But that's what you get when you get me. You get all the noise in the background with the animals. Beauty, so she's about 20 years old, and I've had her since she was young. She was only 2 when she got here, And she was the one I probably bonded with the most. And then I think it was about 5 years ago, my little ritual is every night, because they have a barn, a nice big barn out from the house. So every night I used to go out and give them a kiss good night. So I get a little kiss, a little cuddle. And this night I went out, and I had noticed she had been depressed for about 3 months. And I thought, I can't find anything wrong with her. You know, I don't know what's wrong with her, but she seems a bit down. The other horses were fine, but she seemed a bit blue. And I thought, I think I might have to take her off to the vet, I think, and get her some tests or something to see if there's an issue, because she just didn't seem herself for about 3 months. And then one night I went out there, gave her the kiss goodnight, and you kind of, you know, you put your arm around her like that and go in for a kiss, and she bit right there under my arm, right at the top of my arm. And like Beauty, apart from my story about when I first got her and she was a little biter, since we decided, you know, peace, man, peace, she hasn't bitten in a multitude of years, because and that's not Beauty at all. She's bonded with me amazingly. I thought, oh, that's strange. So I came inside and I sat down, and I'm feeling around there where she bit me, and it didn't break the skin, but a little bruise started to form, but it didn't break the skin. I'm feeling where she bit me, and I could feel a little lump in there, and I thought, oh, that's probably just the tissue under the bite. So the bite, though it didn't break the skin, must have formed some breakage underneath. So I thought, I'll go to the doctor anyway just to check. Sure, it's nothing, but a bit strange, Beauty beat me. So went off to the doctor, did a biopsy on it. Sure enough, come back cancer. So this horse never bites, and she's had the nightly cuddle and kiss for years and years and years with nothing at all. Decided to just nip me in that area. She had been down, and it turns out to be a cancerous lump. Anyway, when I went to the doctor, you know, and did surgery and everything like that, and I said to him, how long do you reckon that lump would have been there for? And they said, oh, it looks like it's a 3-month growth.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, so she knew. She must have knew that it was there. And I would not have felt that where it was if she hadn't bitten me there. So it would have taken me a lot longer for me to actually find that. And the only reason I was feeling around was because she bit me there. And I was like, oh, why did she do that? You know, and I could feel the little lump underneath it.
She might have saved your life.
Oh, I think she definitely did, because where it was, it would have been a much later date, I reckon, before I would have found it. And so therefore the lump would have been much larger. But as it was, the lump was quite small, though I had to go through all the treatment and the whole thing and do the whole 5-year course, as those of us who have experienced, because it was basically what they labelled as breast cancer. Though it was higher up, it was under the arm, it was basically labelled as breast cancer. So I did the whole 5-year thing, and it's been 6 years now, and it hasn't returned.
That's great news.
Yeah, but and the size of the lump, it was under a centimetre, so it was quite small, and what they said was around a 3-month growth, and that coincided with Beauty's change, her depression.
That's fascinating.
And where she bit me, I mean, what are the odds? She bit me exactly on that lump, like under the bruise. You could feel the lump.
Yeah, it's just like the little teeth mark, like encased where the lump was, where the cancer was.
So yeah, she got me in there early, because I know damn well that I would not have found that and wouldn't have gotten in there early. It would have been a much later date. So I think she caused me a lot of saved me from a lot of pain in the future, perhaps, and maybe even saved my life with that one. So that's my bond with Beauty. She's a little black miniature mare. She's around 36 inches.
Wow.
So she's kind of Shetland size, you know. She's not super small, but that's her. So yeah, and the others didn't change. So it must just be that bond that I had with Beauty.
Yeah, that's really remarkable. Thank you so much for sharing that just incredible story. You know, what's interesting is it's not the first time I've heard a story like this about horses identifying cancer on their owners' bodies.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard it about dogs. I've heard it about dogs.
Yeah. No, and horses actually have a better sense of smell than dogs do. It's not by a lot, it's minute, but they do have that high level, and that people actually use horses for search and rescue because their sense of smell is so excellent.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, the local oncologist here, who I had, one of them, was like, I think he was just amazed. He was like, I think we need to get Beauty to come down and do at the local breast scan that they do down here, and have her sit down here and do it. He hadn't heard a story like that before. He was just amazed by it. Amazed.
Yeah, it is an amazing story, to be certain. I'm very grateful that you were able to share it with me and with the audience this evening. It's just such a powerful thing. I remember there was one time, one of the, I think the farrier came and she knew a body worker. Somebody had done work on a horse, and they asked the horse if there was anything else that it needed worked on. And its owner had just had breast surgery for cancer, and she bumped her owner's chest. Like the horse wanted its owner to be worked on in the area that it was struggling.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just so beautiful.
Yeah.
There's just so much. So Vanessa, thank you so much for sharing that just incredibly profound story with the audience tonight. And is Beauty still alive?
Oh, absolutely. She's 20. Yeah, so we're still going strong. And just a little added note to it, I went in and had surgery within a week that she found it. So it's quite quick. She found
that
it.
is really quick.
Yeah. I think we might be a bit quicker maybe than in America or something like that for the medical thing. But they had me in within a week. Boom, it was out. And I went straight home, and her demeanor immeditely changed back to who she was.
Wow, that's
so you know how I said
cool.
she was in that kind of depresso state, and I couldn't find anything wrong with her, but I think I'm going to have to take her vet. The day I got home from the hospital, which is the next day after the surgery, because I pretty much went straight home, she was back to normal. Yeah, I know, mind blowing, isn't it? I'm like, oh, I don't have to take you to the vet now because you're back to normal.
Wow.
I think it was obviously worrying her greatly, because she was quite a depressed horse, and then boom, she was back to, it's me, I'm back.
That's amazing.
So I just think it's one of those amazing little mysteries of animals and life, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. I
Yeah.
hope that you can share a picture of Beauty on my page underneath our videos.
I'll send you one so you can have a picture of her.
That would be great. Well, thank you again so much for all of that. It was, always such a pleasure to share time. So, what time is it there? Speaking of time.
Oh, I don't know. I have no clue. I have no clue. It was just nice to be invited because, I get to speak about, I always get invited onto, obviously, business-orientated things to talk about the coaching because, quite established in that area. But to be able to come on and just talk about my really big passion, which is my animals and my wildlife caring with my kangaroos, was quite a treat. So thank you.
You're very welcome. It was my pleasure. All right, my friend, have a lovely rest of your day. It is clearly evening time here. It's 9:06 p.m. here in Olympia, Washington, in the United States. And until next time. Goodbye.